Today on Week in Review, the North Coast MLA sat down with us for an exclusive interview. The Department of Fisheries and Oceans had to correct a math error. And the HEART team came from Manitoba to try and find a missing man. Hello, I'm Helen Asante, and thanks for joining us here on Week in Review, where we cover all the news here in the Northwest from this past week. We recently began a special spotlight series on Northwest MLAs. First up was North Coast MLA Tamara Davidson, who met with us for an exclusive one-on-one interview. Davidson is appointed Minister of Environment and Parks and has quickly become a key voice for the Northwest. We start our conversation with a lighter question: what her favorite park is. She smiles as she shares her choice.
There's so many diverse parks here in British Columbia, over 1,000 parks that we have. And each of them has a different experience and a different feel, vibe to it. And I just love going out and visiting all of them. Yesterday I had a chance to go out to Diana Lake, see all the improvements that our BC Park staff are working so hard on doing the upgrades for. I also had an opportunity recently to go to Joffrey Lakes and to Narran Falls, and I just really love getting out. I'm really happy to see how much work we're putting in to make the parks more accessible as well, so that all people of all abilities are able to get out and enjoy them as well. But I would have to say, I guess my favorite one would be Naikun Park on Haida Gwaii.
Davidson also highlighted the importance of working with Indigenous and local leaders to move the region forward.
I really have such a deep love and understanding of all of the communities that I represent here in the riding. Over 50% of the constituents that live in my riding are Indigenous, from really strong communities, resilient communities, and myself, I'm from Haida Gwaii, and it really resonated with me to be able to represent such strong, resilient people. I've also learned so much more about the histories of each of the communities that I represent.
The Skinner MLA admits the challenge is real. She says her role is to make sure rural voices carry weight in Victoria.
With going through a worldwide pandemic, it's been really hard on so many different people within our province to really have a deep understanding about the challenges and the issues that our province is facing. And so it's really hard too for different people in different areas, such as Prince Rupert or Haida Gwaii, and just the connectivity into those communities and making sure that people are getting the proper news that they need. I find myself that I am having to do a lot of outreach with our community members just so they understand what programs and services and decisions that we're facing as a province and how it fits into the larger scope of Canada. It's been great. I'm so happy for the summer to be getting out and meeting with all of our constituents. My office is always open. I have some great staff that can connect people with the right program and the right service. And also just working closely with my federal counterparts. I had the opportunity to meet with the Minister of Environment, Minister Julie DeBruson, over the last couple of weeks. She's amazing, and she has such a passion for the work that she does, as do I. And we had a really good connection. So I'm here to help all of our constituents feel like they have a voice, especially in Victoria.
When asked about Bill C-5 and her connection to Haida Gwaii, Davidson reflected on the atmosphere there and voiced her opinion.
Every Indigenous community, they're on their own journey and their own path, and some of them are looking towards treaties, some of them are looking towards self-government, and then some of them are looking towards rights and title agreements similar to what the Haida Nation signed. But I would say that each of those communities too, they have their designated spokespersons like a Hereditary Chiefs Council, or they even have spokespersons that are part of their band councils. So each of them are unique and really different, and that they bring forward the community concerns, needs, and challenges in their own way.
A math blunder has been corrected by the Department of Fisheries and Oceans by allowing some extra late-season opening in 2 fishery areas. But this has some conservation experts sounding the alarm. CFTK-TV's Helen Matthews explains.
Two wrongs don't make a right, said Greg Taylor, senior fisheries advisor to Watershed Watch and Skeena Wild. That's over the DFO's last-minute fix for an incorrect sockeye multiplier that was applied to the Tyee test fishery throughout the season. The Watershed Watch shared an email from Bradley Koroluk of the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, stating that the incorrect multiplier resulted in an underestimation of daily escapements. According to the DFO, the update resulted in additional Skeena sockeye for total available catch for 2 area fleets. The DFO then informed stakeholders they had planned 2 new area openings for additional fisheries to occur within the following week. But there's a problem with this, say both the Watershed Watch Salmon Society and the Skeena Wild Conservation Trust, and it's in the timing. They say these late-season fisheries will impact depleted sockeye populations, as well as chum and steelhead salmon runs that will be caught and discarded as bycatch in the controversial gillnet fishery. Both groups are calling the proposed late-season fisheries irresponsible and unnecessary. Taylor says the commercial marine fleet has had many days of fishing already, and that any additional allowable catch could have been harvested in more sustainable fisheries, close to the spawning grounds of more abundant populations where there will be less impact on depleted salmon and steelhead populations. He says the fleet's demands to open the fishery ignored the fact that the enhanced return had passed through their area, and any opening at that point targeted endangered wild sockeye populations. For CFTK-TV News in Terrace, I'm Helen Matthews.
Canadian lumber once again facing higher tariffs. The United States has increased duties on softwood, a move that could impact mills, workers, and housing costs here at home. Canadian softwood lumber now faces a 14.5% tariff set by the U.S. Department of Commerce. Canadian supplies close to a third of American demand, meaning the change could ripple through both countries. A proposed 25% tariff announced earlier this year was delayed, but future reviews in Washington could raise duties even higher.
We'll be announcing some additional tariffs over the next few days, having to do with automobiles, cars, and having also to do a little bit with lumber down the road, lumber and chips.
For local mills, it means tighter margins and less room to compete with global suppliers. Workers could see slower production if demand drops.
If there's one thing that we've learned from the threat of President Trump's tariffs is our relationship with the United States has changed forever. Not just on lumber, but on all goods and services.
Europe is also stepping into the market, filling the supply gaps created by these trade tensions, a shift that could reshape pricing and supply chains in North America.
But when our market share has declined, the U.S.'s domestic supply hasn't technically increased that much. It's actually the European market that has increased.
Industry expert warns tariffs like these could often drive up construction costs, leaving both producers and consumers to absorb the impact. And now Ottawa is stepping up with $1 billion support package for the industry. Helen Asante, CFTK-TV News, Terrace. And now we take a look at the discussion surrounding copper tariffs and how in an unconventional way they could end up helping northwestern BC. CFTK's Kil Maslin explains further.
Donald Trump's rampant tariffs have affected many different industries, and while northwestern BC's most recent concern has been the increase in duties on softwood lumber, another important item is copper. Copper is used in the making of so many different items, from vehicles to plumbing pipes to wind turbines and even clothing, because it works very well as a thermal and electricity conductor while also being resistant to corrosion. We recently spoke with the CEO of a precious metals explorer and developer called American Pacific Mining Corp, who explained why the tariffs on that particular item will not be damaging to northwestern BC.
What typically happens is you're gonna from BC or Alaska or wherever geographically, but you're gonna ship this unrefined product. 99% of the time, you're shipping it over to China, and then it's being shipped back as a refined product. None of that product will be affected by these tariffs. That's really sort of the key piece here.
Warwick Smith also highlighted the ways that Trump's decision to implement these tariffs could actually end up being a benefit for mines in BC and Canada as a whole.
It shone a big spotlight on what insiders have kind of known for a while, is that the world needs a hell of a lot more copper than it has access to. And so for those mines in places like Terrace, you're making a domestic product that Canada needs quite desperately. And if there's one thing that Canada needs to do better of, it's trade within its internal borders, right? Between its different provinces. Copper is not excluded from that, right? And having it domestically made is by far the best solution. This second coming of Donald Trump has been one of the best things to happen to Canada, because it's made us look internally and say, how do we do better here, right? Because your number one trade partner is unreliable. Now you've got premiers talking to each other. Okay, how do we remove all these trade barriers between these different provinces, right? You've got the Prime Minister of Canada talking about it. The stronger we are insular within our own borders, that makes us a stronger trade partner. Because if you're able to trade within your own country, you can drive your price up, and you can drive a much harder bargain when you're looking outside the country as well.
But despite the positives, Warwick Smith expects that copper prices will dramatically increase in the future regardless of what happens with the tariffs, because it's a very in-demand item and there will need to be a lot more of it to keep up with said demand. For CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin.
Up next, Fourth Gitson Development Corporation trucks were banned in possible arson. The search for a man who was lost in the Skeena River in July recently had a development as a new specialized team from out of province came to lend their aid. CFTK-TV's Cale Maslin has the details.
Last week, the Hatarian Emergency Aquatic Response Team, or HART team, traveled from their home base in Manitoba all the way to Terrace to try and complete the search for a man who was swept away by the Skeena River. Thomas Kelly had gone to the river on July 12th to fish, and he hasn't been seen since then. Thomas's wife Shauna ended up in contact with the HART team after talking with others to try and keep looking when the local RCMP called off their initial search.
I spoke with the K9 team about day 4 after Tom went missing. Reached out to them trying to get some land sections searched, and unfortunately at that time they weren't able to put together enough days to come, but they had mentioned that the HART team was the best in the country at what they do, and so I reached out to the HART team day 4 as well, I believe, after I spoke with her. And since then, I've stayed in touch with them throughout our searching. We've put together quite a few search efforts throughout the past little over a month since Tom went missing on July 12th. And the HART team has now finally been able to put together enough days to be able to come.
One of the reasons that the HART team was called up for this search is because of their tools that they have at their disposal to complement the methods used by others helping with the search.
Being an underwater recovery team, we have various sonars. So 90% what we do is imaging. And imaging has its challenges. So deep, swift water is one of the biggest challenges.
We have an ROV. We also have an underwater camera. And our first tool is the dogs, of course. And then once we get a really good idea of where to search, then we'll put in those tools at that point. We also have boats as well, but they're more tailored to the lake.
The newest social media update from the team said this past Sunday was the final day their 2 teams could be in Terrace for the search. But based on what they've seen and experienced beforehand, they are confident that Thomas has surfaced somewhere, and they're holding on to the hope that they'll find him. Anyone looking to help with the search can do so by donating on the HART team's Facebook page or the GoFundMe page set up by Shauna Kelly. For CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin.
The boil water notice in Prince Rupert was confirmed to be continuing last week. The notice was initially put into effect due to several lab tests indicating there is a coliform bacteria in the drinking water that can potentially make people very sick. There is no current timeline on when the notice will be lifted. While it remains active, residents are advised to boil their water for 60 seconds before cooling it and then placing it in the food storage. The Kitimat RCMP recently put out a new report that detailed the most notable cases that they had to deal with throughout most of the previous week. The first part of the report talked about officers getting called to a Whitesale resident due to a disturbance with them, then discovering that the residence had one of its windows broken. Officers quickly identified a suspect, and after attempting to speak with them, a scuffle ensued when the suspect did not cooperate. The suspect was eventually able to be arrested and spend the night in the RCMP cells before being released with a future court date. Terrace RCMP detachment listed off incidents that they had encountered, mostly throughout the previous week, in a new online report. One part of the report mentioned that the police got word that an e-bike had been stolen from a property located in the Gagnon Road area. It's believed to have been stolen sometime between 1 and 4 a.m. on August 13th, and anyone who has information on where it might be located is asked to call the Terrace RCMP at 250-638-7400. After the break, a local film group's major multi-part project culminated a final public screening. This past Monday saw the new Hazelton RCMP get word that 4 vehicles owned by the Gitson Development Corporation were burned in what is believed to be an arson case. The police have stated that video shows a person putting an unknown object on the tires of the vehicles that were parked together in the corporation's parking lot. This case comes not long after the engineering company who works with Gitson Development saw vehicles of their own in Terrace and Smithers get lit on fire as well. Each of those investigations are still active, and anyone with information on any of those cases are asked to call the new Hazelton RCMP at 250-842-5244. Kitimat Search and Rescue say that this past Saturday, August 16th at 3:45 p.m., they were tasked by the RCMP to assist 6 fishermen who were stranded along the Kimano River southeast of Kitimat. They say that the 7 SAR members responded to the call, working to safely extract the individuals by helicopter and transport them to Kimano. They say that despite the remote location, the team successfully completed the rescue without further incident. Kitimat Marine Rescue was also dispatched to transport members from Kimano back to Kitimat. Search manager Kelly Marsh said all 6 fishermen were brought back safely thanks to the coordinated effort of SAR members and the strong support from partners. Kitimat Search and Rescue want to remind the public that the river conditions and access in remote areas can change quickly and become hazardous. Proper planning, including notifying someone of your travel plans, carrying safety equipment, and wearing personal flotation device is vital for ensuring safe outdoor adventures. Northwest Regional Terrace Kitimat Airport recently posted a new report that listed their passenger statistics for the month of July. After seeing a slight dip in its numbers during the month of June, July's passenger numbers came back strong with 24,781 people passing through the airport. That number is the highest single month that has 2025 seen this point, and continues the general theme of this year for the airport, which is monthly totals gradually going up more often than not. Still to come, Air Canada's strike did not affect the Northwest Regional Airport. Welcome back. The City of Terrace announced that all of the recently added zones at the Tetrod Bike Park are now open to the public. The new pump track, skill zones, and drop zones opened recently, while the ramp zones just opened. Another addition to the park is a gravel path that stretches from the nearby parking lot to the end of the jump zone. The city advised all bikers who ride at the park to be cautious as it's not supervised, and features like the wood surfaces can be slippery when wet. Locally, at the Northwest Regional Airport, flights were not affected by the Air Canada strike. The airport flies with Jazz Aviation, a regional airline that operates flights under the Air Canada Express brand. Jazz Aviation continued to operate as normal through the service disruption, and no flights in or out of Northwest Region Airport were cancelled. A local film group recently showed off the culmination of a multi-part project that told the stories of local artists and was in the works for several years. CFTK-TV's Kale Maslin has more.
Last night saw the Outdoor Artist Collective hold a screening at Terrace's Skeena Diversity Building for the final 2 episodes of their Creative Voices of Change documentary series. And this time, the episodes focused on local artists Carrie Morgan and Stan Bevan, and like the earlier parts of the series, both artists got to reveal a bit of their backstory, along with how they go about doing their work. While both artists had seen their episodes before, they described what the viewing experience was like with an audience this time around.
It's really different watching a video with a group of people. It made it all look different.
It was really nice to be amongst a bunch of people while they got to watch our videos and see our faces so large. And to hear everybody's feedback on our videos was lovely.
Although the videos have finally finished airing publicly, there will be more parts from the series coming in the future, but in a different format.
There's a brand new podcast. It's coming out next year through the Tell a Story Hive program, also up on YouTube. And it's in the same vein as the Creative Voices of Change documentaries. It's talking to artists around the region, but it's a more informal conversation. And this time it's really been digging into this first series. It's really been digging into artists' relationship with seasons and how they view themselves interacting with their community and sort of the responsibility that comes with all of that process, that artistic process and that social process.
The videos are available to view on both YouTube as well as an online portal created by Tell a Story Hive, a program that focuses on helping underrepresented communities in BC and Alberta tell their stories. The co-founders of the collective also shared what they believed was the biggest thing they learned from doing this series.
We get to interact with a lot of people that are really engaged and working across the region with a lot of different people and using their art to uplift a variety of communities. And so I think just getting different perspectives on that as we go along is pretty profound.
I feel like I maybe saw it all in the area. I'm like, okay, yeah, like Terrace, you know, we know everybody is great, and then there's always somebody new or some new ideas, and I keep getting surprised, and I love this project for this.
And while it isn't 100% confirmed yet, the collective has discussed doing a future project in tandem with Skeena Diversity and Terrace that asks people living in the city about how they live during the winter and what they consider their relationship with the season to be like. For CFTK-TV News, I'm Kale Maslin.
That wraps up this week's edition of Week in Review. Make sure to tune in to our regular newscast on Monday at 5, 6, 6:30, and 11 here on CFTK-TV. Thanks for tuning in and have a good weekend.